Welcome to Zero Sum Studio. I'm Zero, and in this video I'm going to be giving you an overview of the character sheet and what you'd need to know to start playing a character in Distemper. I'm going to be using Pesky LaRue, one of the pre-generated characters or pre-gens, as an example. As much as I love creating new characters, there are times when a player just needs one ready to go, and Pesky is one of the many pre-gens available to download from the Distemperverse website. Each time new characters are created for playtesting or as part of our ongoing campaign, they're added to the ever-expanding library of ready-to-go characters to download. If you look at the character sheet, you'll see that it's sort of intended to look like a job application form. This may change before we go live, but I wanted something that reflected the grounded nature of the game and sort of felt this was thematically in line with that. One disclaimer, Distemper is still very much in active development, and everything in this video is subject to change as we playtest and move towards going live. You'll see the character sheet is broken into 7 sections. We'll go into details on each of them, but they are personal information, skills, secondary stats, weapons and equipment, background information and notes, relationships, additional equipment, and miscellaneous notes. Personal information. These are the things that help you bring your character to life and help you, as a player, remember who it is that you're portraying. Some of the information is pure flavour, some is their name, age, height and gender, but other information is critical to gameplay. You'll see there's an area to describe yourself in 3 words, and these descriptive words should be reflective of the character you're playing. In this case, Pesky is shrewd, manipulative and sneaky, and if you are playing Pesky and were confronted with a choice or situation that required your input, those 3 words can act as touchstones to remind you of the choices Pesky might make. Also in this section are the character's motivation and complication. These both tie into a character's backstory and, like the 3 words, help define how that character acts and reacts. In Pesky's case, his complication is that he was betrayed by Marty Kaczynski, and his motivation is to get revenge. Pesky's complication and motivation are pretty specific, but for many characters they'll be more general, such as finding safety or staying alive. Lastly in this section are the player's rapid range attributes. These attributes, reason, acumen, physicality, influence and dexterity, collectively referred to by the acronym RAPID, are the mental and physical qualities that define who a character is. Reason is how smart they are and how well they process information. Acumen is tied to their intuition and cunning. Physicality is a measure of both how tough and athletic a character is, and also of their willpower and self-control. Influence reflects how charming or charismatic a character is and how well they can use that to their advantage. Dexterity is a measure of their reflexes, speed, and hand-eye coordination. In most characters, these rapid range attributes start at 0, which is considered average, although in some cases through injury or old age, attributes can drop as low as -2, and they go up as high as 4, which is considered human peak. This number is the attribute modifier, or A mod, that's added to dice checks when using that attribute. So if you're trying to bash down a door using physicality, and you have a physicality of 2, you'd add a +2 A mod to the dice check. Skills. Skills reflect things that a character knows or can do and the expertise and training they picked up along the way. Skills generally range from level 0, untrained, up to level 4, which is their life's work. There are a few skills, however, such as first aid and vehicle repair, that require specialised training, and without that training, the character starts as -3. This is because, for the most part, if the character doesn't have training in those skills, they're much less likely to be successful and have a greater chance of failing. The number for each skill ranges from -3 to +4, and this is their skill modifier, or S mod, which is added to dice checks when using that skill. And so, someone with Stealth 2 will get a +2 S mod when sneaking around. Also, each skill is tied to a rapid range attribute, which is shown in brackets at the end of the skill, and these benefits are cumulative. This means that when making a dice check, both the attribute modifier, or A mod, and the skill modifier, or S mod, are counted towards the check. So, if Pesky, who has Stealth 2, which is tied to his Dexterity, which is a 1, is trying to sneak around, he'd get a +2 S mod for his Stealth skill, as well as a +1 A mod for his Dexterity, meaning he'd get a total of +3 to his dice check. Secondary stats. Each character has a series of stats that are mostly derived from their rapid range attributes or skills, or a combination of the 2. These stats all affect gameplay in a different way, with some tying into combat and others affecting gameplay in more subtle ways. These stats are wound points. This is a reflection of how much damage a character can suffer before dying. This has a base value of 10 and has the modifiers for physicality and dexterity. In Pesky's case, he has both a physicality and a dexterity of 1, so he gets to add 2 points to the base of 10 for 12 wound points. Resilience points are a reflection of how much physical trauma or emotional stress a character can endure becoming knocked unconscious and incapacitated. This starts at 6 and adds a character's physicality A mod. In Pesky's case, he has a physicality of 1 and therefore has a resilience point total of 7. Defensive modifier melee, defensive modifier range. These are defensive modifiers that affect both how difficult somebody is to hit and also reduces the amount of incoming damage an attack does. The melee defensive modifier is tied to physicality and range defensive modifier is tied to dexterity. As Pesky has 1 in both, he has a -1 DM for both incoming, melee and ranged attacks. The order in which participants act when in combat is determined by their initiative check, which takes place at the beginning of each round. This initiative modifier is added to the score and is based on a character's acumen and dexterity. Pesky has an acumen of 2 and a dexterity of 1, and he gets a total initiative modifier of +3. Encumbrance determines how much equipment a character can carry without becoming exhausted and moving slowly. This is a base value of 6 plus any AMOS from physicality. As Pesky has a physicality of 1, his total encumbrance is 7. Morality is reflective of how true a character is to their moral compass. If they act out of character or do things that go against their own internal code of ethics, their morality score drops, and when it reaches 0, they lose a point of influence. Each character starts with a morality score of 3. Each character has a panic threshold of 50% of their resilience points, rounded down. If they reach that total, they have to make a check or suffer a panic attack. We can see them running for the hills. As Pesky has a resilience score of 7, 50% of that rounded down means that he has a panic threshold of 3. Similarly, each character has a breaking point. As life in the post-apocalypse wears on them, they will approach their breaking point, at which they'll have an out-of-character reaction, something that will be terrible and could have long-term ramifications. It's up to characters to manage their stress and their breaking point and ensure they're doing things so they don't hit their breaking point. CDP is where you track the character development points a player earns as part of gameplay. CDP can be spent on improving attributes and skills, and characters start the game with no CDP but earn them through each session. Insight dice enable a player to directly impact the narrative by things like adding modifiers prior to a dice check or re-rolling dice on an unsuccessful check. Characters all start with 2 insight dice and get 1 on a moment of high or low insight, a double 1 or a double 6. Rations. The amount of food and water each character needs to consume to remain healthy is measured in rations, and each character needs 1 ration per day to avoid taking subsistence damage. Each character starts with 2 rations. Weapons and equipment. This is where you record all the stuff your character has. Fists. Each character does 1d3 wound point and resilience point damage, as well as a modifier based on their physicality and skill in unarmed combat. With his criminal upbringing, Pesky was often in and out of fights, and his physicality of 1 and unarmed combat of 1 means he has a final total of 1d3 plus 2 damage when he's fighting with his bare hands. Weapons. Each character starts with a primary and secondary weapon, which are all recorded here, along with the various statistics like damage, range, and the amount of ammo they have. Realizing how little ammo is left, Pesky has a police baton as primary weapon, with his backup being a shotgun. Likewise, equipment is where items such as binoculars, or in the case of Pesky, lockpicks, are recorded along with any bonuses or traits they may have. Background information and notes. As players go through the background generation process, they're encouraged to write down sentences at each stage. This combines to create a total background which can be listed here. Relationships. As characters interact with NPCs, they'll develop relationships, good or bad. This is where you'd record the various C mods that will influence social checks such as negotiations and gut instincts. As Pesky wants nothing more than to strangle the life out of Marty, he has a -3 C mod. Additional equipment and miscellaneous notes. This is where to record the item of incidental equipment each player gets, such as a Zippo or a map of the area, as well as any of their survival equipment. Fillable PDF character sheets as well as multiple pre-gens are available for download from distemperverse.com. Please go and check them out. And thank you very much for tuning into this video. I know it's cheesy, but please hit like and subscribe on your way out. It really does help the channel, and I'll be back with more videos soon. Till then, stay safe. Thanks.